Hey guys, today I will be taking a look at some shocking new polls from the 2020 presidential election, and specifically out of some key battleground states that President Trump won by huge margins in 2016 and is now having to defend as swing states. Now, before we get into that, make sure you join my Discord server if you have not. We're doing many events and giveaways and contests on there before the election, so make sure you join and you don't miss out on that. The link again is at the very top of the description below. Also, make sure you consider joining my YouTube channel as well if you're interested in getting some pretty sweet perks. It's just 99 cents per month, and just click on that blue join button next to the subscribe button. So moving on to today's video. So this is the 2020 electoral map. We have all of the likely and solid states for both Joe Biden and President Trump filled in here. And then in the remaining states, these are the toss-up states. Now, the first state that Joe Biden has been doing relatively well in right now is the state of Georgia. So if we take a look at the numbers here in Georgia, Joe Biden has been leading throughout the entire month of October so far. On 538, they do give it to Donald Trump as of right now on their official forecast, but the polling average shows Biden up on average by 1%, and I do think that they will put Georgia back into the Biden column, as Trump right now, I believe, is expected to win this state by 0.1 or 0.2% as of right now. So this is just the newest poll. This is from a BC rated pollster. They put Biden up 7 points in Georgia. That is pretty significant. This is to say that Trump won by a smaller margin in 2016. He won this state by just 5.2%, I believe. And then this A+ rated Standard College New York Times Upshot poll says that the race is currently even. Now, this is definitely not a seat that Biden needs. I mean, he really only needs 3 states on this electoral map. That's just Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, and he will get to 270 electoral votes. So Georgia is by no way a state that Biden needs, but for President Trump, it is definitely a very crucial state to his re-election. He essentially has to win almost every single swing state if he wants to win this election. I'm taking a look at all of this. He has to win at least some of these Rust Belt states if he really does want to win in November. So things are not looking good. I mean, things are against President Trump. He has to win so many of these swing states. And I mean, in 2016, he carried every single one of these swing states except the state of Nevada. But right now, these 3 states seem out of reach for President Trump. I mean, just take a look at the newest numbers in Michigan. The newest numbers in Michigan right now, Biden plus 8.1% on average, a state that Trump won, keep in mind, in 2016. And the latest 2 polls from Fox News, an A- rated pollster, this is from Fox News, shows Biden plus 11, plus 12. The sample size is also pretty large, and this was just conducted around 2-3 days ago. So plus 11 and plus 12%, that is a very strong likely margin for Joe Biden, and a state that Trump carried in 2016. So Michigan right now, I think that most people do agree that Michigan right now is out of reach for President Trump. Joe Biden has been leading consistently here throughout the entire election cycle. He's led by 10% at one point. He's at 8.1% right now, and I do expect this number to go up a little bit more in the future. However, as of right now, Joe Biden doing amazingly well here in the state of Michigan. And President Trump, I mean, if he really does want to win the election, things are looking harder and harder for him. I mean, if he does have a good night, he's going to win Texas, obviously. He can also win Iowa. Let's see, he also wins Ohio and Georgia. Then if he were to have a really good night, he might win Florida. He might win North Carolina as well. And let's say he also wins Arizona. But breaking through these other 3 states, I really do think it's going to be a huge challenge for President Trump. He would have to win either Wisconsin and Michigan, or Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, or just the state of Pennsylvania. So if he wins Pennsylvania, he gets to 278 electoral votes. However, without these 3 Rust Belt states, President Trump cannot win the election. Joe Biden right now leads by 6% in Pennsylvania, 8% that we just saw in Michigan, and then 7% in Wisconsin. Hillary Clinton never had those types of margins, and that is why President Trump is really not in a favorable position right now. If we go back to take a look at the state of Georgia, 16 electoral votes, this is very crucial to Trump's re-election. This is to say that if President Trump cannot win Georgia, he cannot win the election. There's just no way that he's going to win Rust Belt states and not the state of Georgia. And taking a look at the history of the state of Georgia in terms of how it has voted, President Trump is expected, according to historical trends, to do even worse here. This was a state that the Republicans have won in every single election since 1996, and a state that is seeing smaller and smaller margins for the GOP. I mean, in 2000, Bush won 54% of the vote. In 2016, Trump won 50.8%. So President Trump's numbers, I do think, will go under 40 or under 50% to 49%, even if he does do very well there. But right now, these numbers are just not in Trump's favor. He is expected to do even worse than he did in 2016. His margin was only okay here. Definitely a huge decline from Mitt Romney's margin over Barack Obama in 2012. And taking a look at this state, I mean, this was a very solid Democratic state for over a century until Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act. As you can see, after the assassination of JFK, Kennedy signed the act in 1963, I believe, or 64. But at the next election, when he ran against Goldwater, Johnson lost the South, and it would not be reclaimed by the Democrats until Jimmy Carter in 76 and 80 and 1980, even though Jimmy Carter lost in a landslide to Reagan, and then Clinton was able to flip it one more time in 1992, and ever since then it has gone to the GOP. It's, Bush really did increase the margin for the Republican Party in 2004. However, since then, Georgia is slipping more and more for the Republican Party. So right now, Joe Biden leads by a margin of not 0.1, but just 1% in Georgia. That is pretty good for Joe Biden. Not a state that he needs to focus on. He's not focusing on Georgia, but these numbers are just significant for him, and we see huge lines in Georgia for early voting, and a lot of them are going to vote for Joe Biden early, and as we'll see, more Republicans voting on election night. And then the state of Iowa, this is 6 electoral votes. You have to keep in mind that this is a state that Trump won by almost 10% in 2016. And right now, taking a look at these numbers, Joe Biden leads in the state of Iowa by 1.1%. And this is a state that Trump has not led in since the beginning of this month, and a state that President Trump, if he does not win Iowa, there is literally a 0.5% chance that he's going to win the election, because this is the most solid state for President Trump in 2016 out of every single toss-up state. It was solid. It was more solid for Trump than the state of Texas. Out of every single one of these gray states, Iowa voted the best for the president, and if he loses Iowa, there's no way he's going to win other states like Wisconsin, Michigan, or Pennsylvania. So the state of Iowa right now, Biden plus 1.1%. And we have, we saw a huge number of A-rated pollsters come out with polls yesterday. We see Emerson College shows a tie, Siena College and the New York Times a Biden plus 3 margin, and 3 Monmouth universities are all A+, and then we have A- from Emerson. So A+ rated pollsters, these 3 Monmouth University out of likely voters, Biden plus 5 and Biden up 3, and then just from registered voters, Trump plus 1. So these numbers are in no way favorable for President Trump. These numbers are devastating for his campaign. I mean, this is the state that he cannot lose, and this is a state that he's really not spending too much money in, as we saw yesterday, but definitely he has to secure this state. And as we saw when he went to Erie, I believe yesterday, he literally said that the pandemic has hurt his campaign and that he wouldn't have to campaign there. Honestly, I think he still would have, but he probably wouldn't have. But I think that Trump also knows that his campaign is not doing so well, which is why he's having to go to states that he really did not expect to go to. He went to Erie just yesterday to campaign, and I mean, he didn't really have that great of a crowd response from the crowd when he said that, when he said that he probably wasn't even going to go there. So yeah, things are looking good, and I think that President Trump does know that. These Iowa numbers are just devastating for the president. I mean, this state did used to be a Democratic state. I mean, Barack Obama won it in 2008. He also won it in 2012, however, of course, by a much smaller margin that time around, just 6%. In 2008, he was able to win it by 9%. Trump won this state by almost 10%. In 2016, there was a huge chunk of voters who did not vote for either Clinton or Trump just because they were historically very historically unpopular candidates. And then if we take a look at the numbers here in Iowa, Iowa has seen a huge shift to the right from 2012 to 2016. And as of right now, I do not expect it to go to Joe Biden, but I think that he will do very, very well here compared to 2016. And you saw that throughout most of history, this state was a Republican state. However, Democrats have been able to flip it in some instances. You see Johnson, after he signed the Civil Rights Act, he won it in 64. You saw that Truman won it. You saw that FDR also won a couple of times, as well as Woodrow Wilson in 1912. And so this really isn't too important, but in modern history, as you can see, after the 80s, I guess, the Democrats have won this state, I believe, 6 out of the last 8 elections. However, this state since 2012, as I said, has moved significantly to the right. So I don't consider it to be a Democratic state anymore or a toss-up state. I think that it is more of a Republican state after 2016. However, right now, because of the unpopularity of Donald Trump, as well as Joni Ernst, who is struggling in her race against Theresa Greenfield, she is down in the polls, and I believe she couldn't answer a question on how much the value of soybeans were. I believe she guessed $5 when they were $10, or how much you make from selling them, which really is not good if you're trying to capture the voters in a state like Iowa, a very rural farming state. So she's not doing very well. Theresa Greenfield, I think, was a pretty strong candidate for the Democrats to put up there in Iowa. So right now, Trump is down 1.1%. So Iowa is back into the Biden column. So that's 6 electoral votes for Joe Biden. Do I think he's going to win it? Not necessarily, but I think he definitely does have a huge shot at that. Texas also 38 electoral votes. Donald Trump has not been able to lead in the last 2 polls. Last time he led was a poll conducted from the 2nd to the 11th of the month of October from Morning Consult, which does tend to favor Trump a little bit more than other polls. YouGov, you did see some pretty good numbers for President Trump, but the 2 latest polls from Data for Progress and Quinnipiac University shows an even race from the Quinnipiac poll. This is B+ rated pollster, and from Data for Progress, we see Biden actually leading here in the state of Texas. So President Trump might almost definitely win this state. He really isn't spending too much money here. This is a state that I don't think Republicans should be worried about in 2020. However, in the future, definitely they need to worry about this state. This is a state that is honestly so important to the Republicans on a national level. I mean, taking a look at these numbers here, this are the voting history in Texas. This is a state that no Republican president has been able to win without the state of Texas in the last 4 decades. And this is a state that in the last 4 decades, no Republican has lost. Since 1980 and Ronald Reagan, no Democrat has won the state. You saw that in the 60s, Kennedy was able to win it, and then Johnson and then Humphrey was able to win it in 1968. And then you saw that Carter won it in 76, flipping the South. This was really the last time that the Democrats were able to win large areas of the South. We also did see Clinton doing a little bit better there, but Carter was really the last Democrat to win over the South in 76. And then ever since then, it's been red, and this state is increasing in electoral votes. I believe it's expected to go to 41 after the 2020 census, and right now these numbers are just not stacking up very well for President Trump. You see that this state is heavily moving to the right. I mean, at the beginning of the century, Bush won this state by 59% of the vote. In 2004, he won 61.1%. President Trump in 2016, 52%. This is worse than the amount that John McCain won with 55% of the vote. So Texas definitely looking very badly for Donald Trump. He does still lead in this state by 1%. I will give it to him, but I think Texas is going to come down to the wire this time around. I think it's going to be called very late on election night. And then the state of Arizona, we see 11 electoral votes. I also want to take a look at the numbers here in this state as well. This is the electoral history. You see that right now, President Trump won it by 46%. This time around, he is definitely doing much, much worse. A state that no Republican has lost since the year 1996. And this is a state that has voted for the GOP since 52, and then Clinton was able to win it for the first time in decades in 1996. And right now, things are not looking good for Trump. If you were to take a look at the numbers right here, Biden plus 3.8. He's been leading since the beginning of the month of March. And these numbers, these newest polls, Rasmussen reports this is one of Trump's favorite pollsters. It does tend to lean a lot to the right. Biden plus 2%, Ipsos, Biden plus 4, and Biden plus 3. Biden leads in every poll out of Arizona except for that one poll right there. It's a C, D rated pollster, so I wouldn't worry too much. And Yeah, these numbers aren't stacking up too well for President Trump. Biden has led pretty consistently here, so I don't really expect it to go too much higher or too much lower for Joe Biden in Arizona. He is approaching 50%. I think he will reach 50% by the end of the election cycle, so that's plus 3.8 for Joe Biden. Arizona right now is a lean state. I don't know why I keep looking on my Discord link there. So that's 11 electoral votes for Joe Biden. And then the final state that the polls I want to take a look at is the state of North Carolina's 15 electoral votes. Taking a look at this state right here, you see that Joe Biden is not expected to win. I mean, this is a state that Trump won by, I believe, 4.6% in, or 3.6% in 2016, in a state that really I did not expect to be this close this time around. As you can see, after the Civil Rights Act was signed into law in 64, Johnson was able to win it one more time. And then after that, no Democrat has been able to win it, 2 times in a row. We saw, of course, Carter flipped it in 76. And then Obama in 2008, which was pretty surprising. He very, very narrowly, by just 0.3%, won this state over John McCain. I think Joe Biden will be able to do that. I do think that North Carolina will flip for Joe Biden. If we take a look at the polls here, Biden plus 3.1%. This is some of the largest margins that he has seen in this state throughout the entire election cycle. I believe his highest point was 3.4%. He's now up at 3.1%. The newest polls, we had 4 A+ rated pollsters, not pollsters, but polls come out from ABC News and the Washington Post. They're A+ rated. Biden plus 2, 3 plus 1, and plus 2% over Donald Trump. So these numbers definitely are not good for a president who is running for re-election and is down so much in a state that he won in 2016 and a generally Democratic or Republican state. So for Joe Biden, this is going to be another lean state. So even with just these states that we talked about, Joe Biden's already at 270 electoral votes. If you also factor in, Florida is probably going to win that as well as Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, as well as Michigan, and you see Nevada as well. These numbers, Trump might be increasing a little bit after that debate and him catching COVID-19. His numbers really did dip quite a bit after that. However, his numbers are seeming to come back up a little bit. He is doing a lot better in the betting odds right now, but still, the numbers are still against him. And of course, we do have that first presidential debate today. Third presidential debate. Make sure you watch it if you're still undecided. I don't think it's going to be productive again. I think it's going to be, just Biden and Trump arguing on stage, but I think that it will be interesting to watch, and I think that everybody should definitely watch it if you can. And so, yeah, that is the final chance for President Trump to be able to talk to such a large audience nationwide. This debate is very, very important for President Trump, and he definitely needs to be prepared. Biden just doesn't have to get destroyed as long as he has an okay night. Even if he does bad, it will be fine for him, in my opinion, as long as he doesn't get utterly destroyed by President Trump. I think that his campaign will be fine. So Joe Biden has a lot more to lose. President Trump has nothing to lose. And last time he had nothing to lose either, but I think he lost even more than he possibly could have lost from that. So yeah, we'll see how things go later tonight. Make sure you check that out. I believe it's 6 p.m. Eastern time. And so yeah, that will be it for this video. Make sure you join my Discord server if you have not. The link is at the very top of the description below. In addition to that, make sure you consider joining my YouTube channel if you're interested in gaining some of these pretty sweet perks. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see all of you guys in the next video.